This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty Group, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Hi, this is Titus Welliver. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Scooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now.
Ed Robertson with a reminder that singer, actress, and impressionist Marilyn Michaels will join us later on in this hour. We hope to stay tuned for that. In the meantime, Greg Ehrbar is with us as we continue our conversation about Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost, a new original feature-length movie that is also the long-awaited sequel to the 1985 ABC Saturday morning series, The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Both The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost are available now wherever DVDs are sold through Warner Brothers Animation. Greg?
In this feature-length TV movie, we have Maurice LaMarche, who's best known as the voice of the Brain on Pinky and the Brain. Mm-hmm. And he also frequently would do an Orson Welles impression. He was in, actually, movies dubbing an Orson Welles voice. He's a stand-up comic. He is a great actor, and he does a wonderful Vincent Price. The only other person I could think of who could do this would be Bill Hader from SNL. He did hysterically funny Vincent Price specials that there would be very funny sketches. They just ran a rerun of it when they did the Halloween composite special. But Bill Hader has his own series, and I would imagine that to pay for Bill Hader would have made the entire video budget go through it. So it's a good choice to have Maurice LaMarche in there. Of course, we've lost Casey Kasem. So Matthew Lillard, who played Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo live-action movies years ago, he's made Shaggy his voice. It's his career is playing Shaggy now. And we also lost Don Messick, who was the voice of Scooby. And now that is Frank Welker, who is also the voice of Fred.
Frank Welker was recently honored by the Daytime Emmy Awards, I think within the last year or maybe in 2017, with their Lifetime Achievement Award. So Frank Welker has been one of the superstars of voice animation, voice actors for more than 5 decades.
Yes, and he, if you were to count up his credits and the box office that his credits are connected with in motion pictures, all motion pictures, because of all of the vocal effects and voices he's done, he would probably be considered the top box office actor of all time. I think that our friend Bob Bergen is about number 4 in that case. But Frank Welker started as a stand-up comedian impressionist. I remember seeing him on the Merv Griffin show a lot. He did a great Dick Cavett. I remember him going on, I think it may have been the Merv Griffin show, where he was talking about being the voice of Fred. And he said, I'd say things like, hey, gang, let's solve this mystery and go eat crackers, because Fred was always happy-go, he was always an upbeat guy.
Yeah.
And he still does Fred.
With the huge torso, as I recall.
Yeah, Fred was sort of this football player.
Yeah.
I think Fred's design must have gone back to the idea of the show being a Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy series, when it was in its early stages. And Velma was the Dilton Doily, if you know your Archie.
Archie, yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Fred was the leader of them, and he's still doing the voice of Fred. He's doing Scooby now, and Gray Griffin, formerly Gray Delisle, is the voice of Daphne. For a while, Mindy Kahn from Facts of Life was doing Velma's voice. But now Kate McCucci is the voice of Velma. Interesting thing that we did just lose the original voice of Daphne, which was Heather North. And if you're a real Disney fan, you will know that she co-starred with Kurt Russell in The Barefoot Executive. And it's really cool to watch that movie and see this lovely young woman and hear Daphne's voice coming out of her. She did quite a few films. And yeah, we just lost her. So now Greg Griffin does her voice. Now, in this film, in this motion picture, because we have to take this seriously.
This motion picture being Scooby-Doo and the 13th Ghost.
Yes, we're picking up where the other one left off.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind that Fred and Velma know nothing of that 13 Ghost series. So how do we pick up? And you also have to figure the canon of Scooby-Doo, because it's been around for 50 years. The characters are teenagers, so they can't really have had a history of every television series and every made-for-video movie and every live-action movie we've all seen or not seen. So they have to take into consideration we haven't seen all these movies, and they haven't necessarily lived them all. So this is from the standpoint of they're maybe 16 or 17 years old, maybe 2 or 3 years can pass in their lifetimes of the characters, because Flim Flam in this film has had a growth spurt. He's a teenager now, or he's a preteen, he's a tween. So that means they could only age about a year or so. And the conceit is that Shaggy, Scooby, Daphne, and Scrappy had this adventure over a summer and are telling Velma and Fred all about it. And they didn't know anything about it and are stunned and surprised. But Velma doesn't believe a word of it, because Velma's the realist, and every ghost is basically a guy scaring people away for insurance money or something. And there can be a mask, and it's always a fake. Velma, now even though there have been several Scooby-Doo projects where the ghosts were real, or the monsters were real. There have been several. And even the 13 Ghost series, the ghosts and the evil spirits and the monsters were real. This TV movie takes on an awful lot of baggage, because now it's going to tell you, wait a minute now, so was that show true or was that not true? Is Velma right or is Velma wrong?
This is getting a little meta, Greg.
It's very, very well. The original series was meta. The original series was very meta. Let me just say that it is always meta, because there was always a nod to Scooby-Doo tropes in Scooby-Doo movies. Mm-hmm. And lately, because we all know them, they throw them in there so we can kind of laugh.
And in that respect, it sounds like the perfect release for a Scooby-Doo viewer in 2019, because to further our enjoyment of it, we can go back to the earlier shows for reference or whatnot, even though the characters themselves are acting as if this is new to them, because each show was more or less self-contained.
Exactly. It's just like any other IP or franchise. Yeah. You have to understand the context, and they have to take into consideration who knows about it, who doesn't know about it, and that this may be the only video anybody's ever had. You have to be able to have never seen the original series to understand this, because very few people, I would think, know, have, or watch the original who buy this, because this is one of those things you're going to see at Target or get on Amazon. It's a brand new video. So I just think it's very cool that they reached back, that there is still an appreciation within Warner of the canon, of the backstories, and there are references, and they play around with the characters. Now, there's a key. The reason I'm going into such minutia about this is that sometimes the problem with made-for-DVD animated films is they tend to wander. They set up a terrific premise, but then they have to pad them. So you feel like, okay, I'm into this, but this could have been a half hour shorter or something. I get it, but now it's just sort of going there. This is one of the few that don't do that, because of all the intricacies that I'm telling you. You do want to figure out, is it real, is it not? You're also trying to follow what's going on with this creature. They're also going to Tibet. Now, another thing a lot of people don't realize is Daphne is from wealth, and that's one of the reasons they can afford to go on these mysteries. Daphne Blake is her last name. And Vincent apparently is of means as well, and so that pays for a refurbished mystery machine, or the mystery machine, because there's a subplot that they've kind of been told not to do any mysteries anymore because of a mistake they make at the beginning. So it's kind of that losing your badge kind of Western story or police story. You know, you're off the case. You know, you can't be a cop anymore. So that sets up the whole thing of why is this happening? You know darn well there's something going on. So all of this is it's a complex Scooby-Doo story. Then you've got Daphne, who was the lead in the series because there was no Fred and Velma. And so you've got a little bit of the girl power angle, but it's plausible because it's not one of those, oh, let's just reinvent the characters. Daphne was in charge. And so you have the whole element of Daphne wondering if she can be in charge. She's very capable of being in charge. And Fred dealing with the fact that he's not in charge. Now, it gets a little bit silly with Fred, and I won't give that away. But then Fred has to figure out what his role is when he's not in charge. But them both finding how they can fit into the fact so that sometimes she takes over and sometimes he does. So you're not necessarily replacing him as leader so that in future stories their group dynamic doesn't always change. But in this particular case, because she was the lead in the other story, it was. And Shaggy flies the jet plane because he found himself doing that in other series, which is another reach back. Because sometimes you'll say, hey, how come he could do that in this episode, but he couldn't in the other episode? But there is a lot of comedy. There is a lot of joking. There is even, and I couldn't believe it, there's even what they used to call a romp on the monkeys. In the middle of Scooby-Doo episodes in the second season and in every Josie and the Pussycats episode, there was always a groovy number where they would be pursued by the creature, and there was a gag, a series of gags, while the groovy rock and roll song. In this case, it's kind of a knockoff of Superstition, the Stevie Wonder song, and Shaggy and Scooby they're rollicking, goofy things with gag after gag after gag. They even do the thing where they're disguised as someone, and they actually interact with the ghost in a silly way, and the ghost is going along with it, which is right out of an old movie. And they used to do that all the time in the earliest parts of the show. So if you like the early show, I think you'll like this. This is really this is one of the best ones they've ever done. That's why I wanted to really emphasize this one. These movies come out all the time, and I generally don't single them out like this, but this one's very, very important, and it is the 50th anniversary.
So that's Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost, available on DVD wherever DVDs are sold through our friends at Warner Brothers Entertainment. And the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, the 13-episode series that originally aired on ABC, is also available on DVD through Warner Brothers.
Yes, and there's one other one I want to mention, and I won't go into such minutia on that because it's not a throwback to an original series. It's just kind of strange. And they've been doing kind of strange tie-ins with things. There was an entire WWE, and I think I talked about the Flintstone one perhaps earlier. There was a Jetson one and a Scooby-Doo one, actually two Scooby-Doos with WWE. Well, last year, they did a direct-to-video movie, and it was called, and it's still available, called Scooby-Doo and the Gourmet Ghost. And their special guest stars were Bobby Flay and Giada De Laurentiis from the Food Network. Figure that one out.
That sounds like that sounds like a little cross-promotion, product integration thing.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And it is as odd as it sounds. If you like the Food Network, you know, I was watching this like in the same kind of, with my head tilted the way my little dog does when you like, if you whistle, if you make like a whistling noise, or she hears a funny noise and she tilts her head that little way, you know, that's kind of the way I was when I was watching this, like puzzled. Not quite the epic, The Curse of the 13 Ghosts is. That was actually extremely slickly done with a lot of CG for the planes and for vehicles and stuff. This is more on the lines of a TV movie. Nicely done, but not quite as lavishly done. And the storyline here is Bobby Flay, who is well caricatured, looks like him, but smiles way too much, because Bobby Flay isn't known for his sparkling smile. Bobby Flay tends to be pretty, you know, he's kind of tough guy kind of image. You know, he will joke around, but it's kind of, he's not a smiley guy. But in the Scooby-Doo world, he's smiling all the time. Well, he's opening up this inn that he apparently inherited from his ancestor in New England, who was a a Revolutionary War hero. See, we didn't know all this about Bobby Flay. We also didn't know that he's the uncle of Fred. We didn't know that either, but we're stunned. And Jada's already there. We also didn't know that Jada knew karate and she knew ballet and she twirled around and she made food while she spun around and flipped things. And, apparently Jada in her spare time does incredible things and makes use of every second. That's pretty much her character in this. And Jada also, when they're hunting for the ghost, it's the red ghost, which disrupts their cooking shows at all time. The crowd goes, and the red ghost knocks over linguine and things like that. I love the way she doesn't do that in this, but I love the way she says spaghetti. She was on the Tonight Show once, and she says, "That's the way I say it. It's spaghetti." But the red ghost knocks over all kinds of recipes and terrorizes everyone. So they're hunting for the ghost, and Bobby is armed with tongs. He always keeps his tongs handy, which he picks up things with. And Jada is armed with fennel. I'm not making this up.
I'm refraining from comment. I'm just trying to follow along.
And so she makes fun of the tongs, like, yeah, what are you going to do with tongs? And she says, what are you going to do with fennel? And Velma says, well, actually, with supernatural creatures, sometimes it's believed that fennel can disarm them. And she's like, you see? And she's like, and he says, what are you throwing him? And she says, I'm throwing fennel. And so then the spirit appears, says, quick, get the fennel. I mean, there's like a lot of fennel jokes for some reason, but there is a big computerized electronic cooking apparatus in this mansion with a big sort of happy face on it. So that because it's a cartoon, they can do this. It's not just a cooking show. They had to do something more elaborate. So it has a smiley face on it, sort of like the MCP in Tron, only happier. Mm-hmm. And it has mechanical arms, and it assists all the chefs with their dishes when they're on. It's a big arena, like Iron Chef, with an audience, and they're doing this cooking show. So that's kind of the way that's all set up. And then the ghost comes and causes trouble. And there's various people who, if at any point anybody ever tried to solve a mystery on Scooby-Doo, they have suspects. And then at the end, they kind of go through, here's what happened, just like Monk. And there's an unmasking and all kinds of wackiness like that. So, and Scooby and Shaggy, and of course it's a paradise for them because it's loaded with food. So that's pretty much it. It's a throwback in a way to the new Scooby-Doo movies from 1972, when people like Tim Conway, Phyllis Diller, Sandy Duncan, Dick Van Dyke, Sonny and Cher, the Harlem Globetrotters, Batman and Robin, people like that would appear. So why not Jada and Bobby? So that's about all I have to say about that.
Okay, so that's Scooby-Doo and the Gourmet Ghost?
Yes, it is.
And that is also available through our friends at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment.
On sale everywhere. As a matter of fact, we picked this up at Target, so it's probably there waiting for you now.
Greg Ehrbar writes the Animation Spin column, which you can read twice a month at cartoonresearch.com. You can also follow Greg, GregEhrbar.com. Greg, we'll see you again soon.
Okay, Ruby-dooby-doo.
Marilyn Michaels will join us when we come back on TV Confidential.
Buying or selling a home can be one of the most stressful things we'll ever do in life, but it doesn't have to be. And no one knows better than our friends at Front Porch Realty Group. They're a community of realtors serving the Northern Bay Area of California that cares about their clients as individuals first and foremost. Whether you're a first-time buyer or looking to lease or sell your property in the Bay Area, Front Porch Realty Group will help you through this important transition by providing you with the right information for your situation while lessening the pain. They also work with a network of realtors throughout California who provide the same high caliber of customer service. Call Front Porch Realty Group at 415-886-7411 for a realtor referral near you. You can also visit their website, frontporchrealtygroup.com, for more information on the services they provide, including upcoming workshops and seminars. For more information, call 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com. Front Porch Realty Group, They'll find the solution that works best for you.
You can listen to this show all over again as a podcast on TuneIn, iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and other podcast platforms. Best of all, it's free. To find out how to subscribe to the TV Confidential podcast, go to the homepage at televisionconfidential.com and click subscribe now. Ed Robertson, along with Benny Biffle and Sammy Schuster, the stars of The Misadventures of Biffle and Schuster.
Hey, Benny.
Yeah, Sammy.
Did you know that there's a new DVD out called The Misadventures of Biffle and Schuster?
You're kidding. I thought it was married. I thought it was The Mrs. Adventures of Biffle and Schuster.
It's single. It's single. It's called The Misadventures of Biffle and Schuster. It's on Kino Lorber.
Oh, that's a big company.
It is. They only release good stuff. In fact, this came out the same week as the Ten Commandments, the Paramount one that was in color, came out.
You're kidding.
So you know they deal in quality.
Yeah.
Of course, this one's mostly in black and white, but there is some color in there, as I recall.
Right. But the movies are colorful in themselves.
They certainly are. Mm-hmm. And we work with some wonderful people in there.
That's right. And Joe Dante visited us on the set. The great director, Joe Dante. What did he say about this collection of shorts?
He said something along the lines of, and this is merely a quote, "Forehead-slapping funny. What impresses is the dogged authenticity to the era, which makes it all the more hilarious, says I, Joe Dante."
Joe Dante. How about that?
Yes. And he's a famous writer.
Yes, he is. Well, wrote about that Inferno thing.
He certainly did, yeah.
Terrific, yeah.
We're
Biffle and Schuster, as you can see. No one else can make that statement louder than we.
They say we're soporific,
and it's probably we.
Because
we're Biffle and Schuster. Oh, we're Biffle and Schuster. No, we're Biffle and Schuster.
B-I-F-F-Biffle, Biffle. S-H-W-S to Schuster.
Biffle and Schuster. Need we say more?
Available wherever DVDs are sold through our friends at Kino Lorber.